Have you ever noticed how certain women never flirt in obvious ways? They don't laugh too loudly, they don't touch your arm for attention, and they don't openly compliment you in ways that clearly reveal attraction. Instead, they move differently. They observe. They watch your awareness quietly, almost as if they are studying how you respond to the world around you. And when you are a man over 50, something even more interesting happens. Women don't behave around you the same way they might around younger men. There is more caution, more subtlety, and far more depth behind their actions. They're not trying to appear needy. They're not trying to seem overly available. In fact, they're often doing the opposite. Rather than expressing attraction directly, they communicate through layers, through tone, through timing, through carefully chosen words that may seem ordinary on the surface but carry deeper meaning underneath. And this is where most men completely miss what is happening. Because what many men don't realize is this: when a woman feels attracted to a mature man, she rarely announces it. She doesn't say, "I like you," or "I'm interested in you." Instead, she reveals it through behavior patterns that are easy to overlook if you're not paying attention. And among these patterns, there are two very precise questions that tend to appear again and again. They're not random, they are not casual, they are intentional. They function like hidden messages placed right in front of you, waiting to be understood. But before we even get to those questions, it's important to understand the deeper psychology behind why they exist in the first place. Because without that understanding, even if you hear the questions, you might still miss what they truly mean. Many men over 50 carry a quiet belief that they are no longer seen, that women, especially younger women, or even women their own age, are no longer paying attention to them. This belief can become so ingrained that it shapes how they interpret every interaction. If a woman smiles, they assume she is just being polite. If she asks a question, they assume it is just conversation. If she lingers a little longer, they assume it means nothing. But this belief is often completely false. In reality, mature men frequently become more attractive with age, not because of superficial traits, but because of something much deeper: experience, calmness, emotional stability, presence. These qualities carry a kind of weight that younger men often haven't developed yet. The real issue isn't that women aren't interested. The real issue is misinterpretation. It's living your life assuming she is just being friendly, when in reality, she might be opening a door. And here is something you need to understand clearly. Women rarely express interest in obvious ways, especially when they are dealing with a man who appears grounded and mature. Instead, they test. They test your emotional steadiness. They test your presence. They test your awareness. They want to see if you notice subtle shifts. Because feminine psychology operates beneath the surface. It is not loud, it is not direct, it is layered, responsive, and deeply intuitive. When a woman begins to feel that you are someone she could trust, emotionally, physically, even intimately, her energy starts to change. What once felt like casual interaction begins to carry intention. Her curiosity becomes more focused, her attention becomes more deliberate, her questions become more meaningful. And this is where things start to shift in a way that most men don't recognize. She begins asking questions, but not just any questions. These are carefully chosen, designed not to gather simple information, but to understand who you are beneath the surface. Through these questions, she is trying to uncover three essential things. First, your strength as a man, not physical strength, but emotional strength. Are you grounded or are you easily shaken? Do you carry yourself with calm confidence or do you hide behind uncertainty? Second, your availability. Not just whether you are busy or free, but whether you have space in your life for connection. Are you open or are you closed off? And third, your awareness, your ability to recognize what is actually happening between you two. Can you read between the lines, or do you only respond to what is obvious? These three elements matter more than anything else at this stage of life. Because here's the truth. A woman is not just deciding whether she likes you, she is deciding whether it feels safe to move closer to you. And that decision is not made based on your words alone. It is made based on how you make her feel in your presence. Now here is something even more important to understand. Many men grew up in a time when communication was far more direct. If someone was interested, they would say it. If they weren't, they would show it clearly. There was less ambiguity, less subtlety. But today, even mature women communicate differently. They don't say, "I'm attracted to you." They don't say, "I want to get closer to you." Instead, they explore. They move carefully. They observe your reactions. They create small openings and watch how you respond. Why? Because there is a quiet fear that often exists beneath the surface. If she shows interest too openly, she risks being perceived as needy. If she moves too quickly, she risks rejection. So instead of exposing herself directly, she disguises her attraction as curiosity. She places it inside questions. Questions that seem harmless, questions that seem casual, questions that a man who isn't paying attention might completely overlook. And if you miss those questions, something important happens. She rarely repeats them, because from her perspective, that was the moment she opened the door, and if it wasn't recognized, she assumes it wasn't welcomed. This is why awareness matters so much, because these questions are not just words, they are emotional signals, they are invitations, they are bridges quietly placed between you and her to see whether you are willing and able to step forward. But most men answer these questions in a purely logical way. They hear the words and respond to the surface meaning, completely missing what lies underneath. But a grounded, self-aware man does something different. He listens beyond the words. He senses the intention behind them. He understands that she is not collecting facts, she is checking alignment. She is asking herself, is this man present? Is he calm? Is he emotionally open? Does he feel safe to move toward? Because when a woman feels drawn to you, she is not looking for proof of your achievements or your past. She is looking for something much simpler, yet much deeper. She wants to feel your presence. And that is exactly why the two questions you are about to learn are so important. They are not random, they are not casual, they are invitations into connection.
Now that you understand the deeper psychology behind these interactions, we can move into something more precise. Because once you begin to see how attraction actually works beneath the surface, you start recognizing patterns that were always there, but invisible to you before. At this stage, a woman is no longer simply interacting with you out of politeness. Her energy has shifted. There is intention behind what she says and how she says it. And this is exactly when those two essential questions begin to appear. But before we reveal them clearly, you need to understand something critical. When a woman asks these questions, she is not trying to investigate your life in a logical sense. She is not gathering data the way a man might. Instead, she is feeling your emotional temperature. She is asking herself, is he calm or reactive? Is he grounded or uncertain? Is he open to connection or closed off behind routines? These questions are not about facts, they are about connection. Think of them as emotional bridges. She places them carefully between you and her, not knowing whether you will step onto them with awareness or walk past them without noticing. And the way you respond determines everything that follows. Most men respond on the surface, but a man who understands reads beneath the surface. Because when she asks, she is not looking for the correct answer. She is looking for alignment. She is looking for a feeling. Now, let's go deeper into the first question. The first question a woman asks when she feels drawn to a mature man is designed to uncover one thing: your availability. Not your schedule, not your calendar, your emotional availability. She wants to feel whether your life has space for her presence, whether there is room for connection, whether you are open to letting someone in, or whether you are closed off behind habits, routines, or emotional walls. But she will never ask this directly. Instead, it comes in a soft, indirect form. It might sound like, "Do you spend a lot of time alone? Are you usually by yourself? You seem like someone who enjoys solitude. Is that true? Do you go out much, or do you prefer staying on your own? Are you seeing anyone these days, or just focusing on yourself?" On the surface, these questions seem casual, almost meaningless. But they are not. This question is never about loneliness. It is about access. She is trying to understand if there is space for her to exist in your world. Because before a woman allows herself to feel more deeply, she needs to know one thing. If I move closer, will I be welcomed or will I be shut out? And here is where most men make a mistake. They answer literally, "Yes, I'm alone most of the time." "No, not really. I just do my own thing. It depends." These answers may be honest, but they do not create connection because they ignore the deeper layer of the question. A grounded man responds differently, not by over-explaining, not by trying to impress, but by communicating openness without neediness. Something like, "I value my space, but I'm always appreciative of good company." Or, "I enjoy my routines, but I'm open to something meaningful when it comes along." Do you feel the difference? The first type of answer closes the door. The second leaves it gently open. And that small difference changes how she feels in your presence. Because now, instead of sensing distance, she senses possibility. And when she feels that, something inside her relaxes. She no longer feels like she has to protect herself from rejection. Instead, she begins to lean in, emotionally, psychologically, and sometimes even physically. This is how attraction deepens quietly, not through grand gestures, but through subtle moments of alignment. Now, as that connection begins to build, something else happens. She moves to the second question, and this one goes even deeper. While the first question explores your openness, the second question explores your direction. Not your career in a superficial sense, not your achievements, but your inner direction. She wants to feel whether your life has purpose, movement, and stability, because here is something many men don't fully realize. Women are not drawn to men who are drifting through life. They are drawn to men who feel anchored, men who know who they are, men who know where they stand, men who move with quiet intention. And again, she will not ask this directly. She will not say, "Do you have purpose?" She will not say, "Are you emotionally grounded?" Instead, she asks something that sounds simple, almost casual. "What are you looking for these days?" Or, "What's your focus right now? What direction are you moving in? What do you want at this stage of your life?" To most men, this sounds like small talk, but it isn't. This is evaluation. She is not just listening to your words, she is feeling your energy as you answer. Are you clear or uncertain? Are you calm or scattered? Do you speak with intention or hesitation? Because through this question, she is imagining something very specific. She is imagining what it would feel like to be close to you. Would it feel stable? Would it feel safe? Would it feel grounded? Or would it feel uncertain, unpredictable, emotionally unclear? This is why your answer matters, not because you need to impress her, but because your answer reveals how you relate to your own life. A man who says, "I don't really know, just taking things as they come," may seem he sounds relaxed, but often it signals a lack of direction. On the other hand, a man who says, "I'm focused on building a life that feels meaningful, and I'm open to sharing that with the right person," creates a completely different emotional response. There is clarity, there is calmness, there is intention without pressure. And that combination is deeply attractive, because now she doesn't just see you as someone interesting, she sees you as someone she could potentially trust with her presence. And that is the moment when attraction begins to shift into something deeper, not just curiosity, but possibility.
Because women don't test your words, they test your awareness. By the time she reaches this point, she has already observed you. She has watched how you carry yourself, how you respond to people, how you handle silence, how you move through space.
These things speak far louder than anything you say. And when she asks those two questions, she isn't hoping for perfect answers. She's watching how you answer. Does he rush? Does he hesitate? Does he sound unsure of himself? Or does he respond with calm clarity? This is where everything either opens or quietly fades away. A grounded man doesn't overthink these moments. He doesn't try to impress. He doesn't scramble to say the right thing. Instead, he remains steady, present, aware of what's actually happening beneath the surface. Because the truth is simple. When a woman is asking these questions, she is already considering you. She is already imagining what it might feel like to be closer to you. She is already exploring a possibility in her mind, and your response either gives that possibility life or gently shuts it down. Now here's where many men unknowingly make a mistake. They hear, "Do you spend a lot of time alone?" And they answer like it's an interview question. "Yes, I do." "No, not really." "Sometimes." Flat, closed, neutral. But what she's really asking is there space for me in your world? A self-aware man answers the feeling behind the question, not just the words. He might say, "I enjoy my own space, but I appreciate the right company when it comes along." Notice the difference. There's openness in that response. There's emotional availability without neediness. There's strength without distance, and she feels that immediately. The same applies to the second question. What are you looking for these days? Most men either become too vague or too rigid. "I don't know, just seeing what happens. Nothing serious." Or the opposite extreme, over-explaining their entire life plan. But again, she isn't asking for details. She's asking, are you a man with direction or a man drifting? A grounded response might sound like, "I value peace, meaningful connection, and a life that feels intentional." Simple, clear, centered. And when she hears that, something inside her settles. Because direction creates safety, clarity creates attraction, presence creates trust. Now let's go deeper into something most men never realize. Women don't fall for perfection. They don't fall for status alone. They don't fall for rehearsed confidence. They respond to emotional steadiness, especially with mature men. At this stage of life, attraction shifts. It becomes less about surface-level excitement and more about how a man makes her feel internally. Does she feel calm around you? Does she feel seen? Does she feel safe being herself? If the answer is yes, attraction grows. If the answer is no, even the most attractive man can be overlooked. And this is why awareness is everything. Because these moments, these questions, these subtle openings, they don't repeat themselves. A woman might ask once, maybe twice in a slightly different way, but if she feels that you're not aware, not open, not grounded, she pulls back. Not dramatically, not emotionally, quietly, gracefully. And you may never even realize what just happened. You'll just feel like nothing ever moved forward. And you'll tell yourself, she was probably just being friendly. But in reality, she was offering a doorway, and you didn't see it. This is why so many men over 50 believe they're invisible. Not because they lack attractiveness, but because they've been missing the signals that matter most. They've been looking for obvious signs, while women have been communicating in subtle ways all along. Now here's the shift I want you to take with you. Stop asking, is she interested in me? Start asking, what is she showing me that I haven't been noticing? Because attraction rarely announces itself loudly. It reveals itself quietly, through questions, through pauses, through tone, through energy. And once you begin to see that, everything changes. You become calmer in conversations. You stop chasing clarity. You start recognizing it. And something else happens too. Women begin to feel that shift in you. They sense that you're not just hearing words, you're understanding meaning. And that alone sets you apart. Because most men react, very few men perceive. And perception is deeply attractive. So the next time a woman asks you, do you spend a lot of time alone? Pause for a moment. Don't rush. Feel what's behind it and respond from a place of calm openness. And when she asks, what are you looking for these days? Answer with clarity, not to impress her, but to express yourself honestly. Because in those simple moments, you are showing her who you are, and that is what she's truly there to discover. Let me leave you with this.
Attraction isn't something you force. It isn't something you chase, and it definitely isn't something that always looks obvious. It's something you recognize. It's something you allow. It's something you respond to with awareness. And when you do, you stop missing the moments that once passed you by. You stop doubting your place, and you start standing in it naturally. So next time you notice those subtle questions, those quiet openings, don't ignore them, don't overanalyze them, simply see them. Because when you see them clearly, you won't have to wonder anymore. You'll know.